If you were perfectly sane, but found yourself locked inside a psychiatric hospital, could you convince the doctors to let you out? Or, with the act of trying to prove your sanity, make you look even more unstable? In the early 1970s, psychiatric diagnoses were often a matter of professional opinion. Unlike a broken bone on an X-ray, mental illness lacked hard, measurable evidence, making the process of committing a patient dangerously subjective. David Rosenhan, a researcher at Stanford, wanted to see if the experts could actually tell the difference between a healthy person and an ill one. He recruited 8 volunteers to go undercover as fake patients. The stakes were higher than just a bruised ego. If the doctors couldn't spot the fakes, it would suggest that the entire system of psychiatric diagnoses was built on a foundation of guesswork. To get inside the hospitals, the volunteers didn't need a complex backstory or a dramatic performance. They were told to act completely normal in every way but one. During their intake interviews, they reported hearing a single repetitive voice in their heads. It said only 3 words: thud, empty, and hollow. That singular, manufactured complaint was all it took. Doctors across 12 different hospitals accepted the symptom as proof of illness and admitted the volunteers into the wards. It proved that the threshold for losing one's freedom was incredibly low. With almost no medical friction, a healthy citizen could be transformed into a committed patient based on a single sentence. Now that the volunteers were inside the wards, they followed a second set of instructions. They immediately dropped the act and returned to their normal everyday behavior. They were friendly, cooperated with staff, and stopped mentioning the voices entirely. To any outside observer, they appeared to be perfectly healthy people living in a hospital. But the medical staff didn't see it that way. Instead of recognizing the patients were sane, doctors reinterpreted their normal activities, like taking notes in a journal, as symptoms of their supposed mental illness. Across all 12 institutions, not a single doctor or nurse realized they were dealing with imposters. This was confirmation bias in action. Once the doctors applied the initial label of insane, they viewed every subsequent action through that lens, ignoring objective reality in favor of their first impression. The experiment took a turn when the volunteers realized they couldn't simply leave. Because their calm behavior was being logged as part of their pathology, they were unable to convince the staff they were healthy. Some of the sane volunteers found themselves trapped inside for over 50 days, unable to shed the label the doctors had forced upon them. When Rosenhan finally published the results of the study through Stanford, the reaction from the public was immediate and stunned. The report threatened the very authority of the psychiatric field. It had proven that their diagnostic methods were not just fallible, but dangerously unreliable. The psychiatric establishment fought back. A rival hospital challenged Rosenhan's findings, claiming their own staff were too skilled to be fooled by fakes. They told Rosenhan to send them as many undercover volunteers as he wanted over the next 3 months, boasting that they would catch every single one of them. For the next 90 days, the hospital staff went on the offensive, scrutinizing every new admission with intense suspicion to hunt down the Stanford imposters. The hospital announced they had identified 41 frauds and flagged 42 as suspect, believing they had vindicated their profession. But researchers revealed the truth. They hadn't sent a single fake patient. Every flagged person was a genuine admission. This meant that 41 people who were actually ill and who had come to the hospital seeking medical help were aggressively labeled as liars and frauds by the doctors. In their desperate attempt to protect their professional reputation, the doctors had turned their backs on the very people they were supposed to treat. It was the final proof that in the world of 1970 psychiatry, the label was often more powerful than the person.